Hey guys, so basically in this video I wanted to go over the last year of me building this 125 gallon tank. Um, I basically had to go through the entirety of my Facebook and look for all the photos and videos I have posted in the past. So basically I wanted to show you guys what it's taken me so far to go from this on moving day, picking up this old tank, to eventually a running cycled 125 gallon saltwater tank. So basically the first thing I had to do was come up with a design for the stand. It's a design that's been used online many times, but I wanted a design that was strong and sturdy and customizable for me. And I found this design by the king of DIY, which is a YouTuber I follow online. And the rating for the stand is a few tons. I mean, it can hold a lot of weight. Um, I had to work on a level surface. Garage floor was about the best thing I had. It wasn't so level, and I come to find that out later, and you guys will see that later in the video. I actually had to go back and repair the stand, but this is just basically me assembling it. And another big reason why I wanted to come up with blueprints or plans was to make sure that I had a plan and I understood what I was doing, and that way it could be mine. I know how it was built, I know how I could disassemble it if I had to. So for example, the outsides of this entire stand, the wrap, can all be taken apart in case I had to access different parts of the sump that I can't reach from the front. So that was a big reason. I wanted this stand to be mine. I know there are many like it, but this one is mine. I'm pretty sure that's a military quote from somewhere. Also, if you look right here, this stand could actually fit a bigger tank, about 6 inches deeper, which I think is a 180 gallon tank. It's a specific tank, I think it's by Marineland. So yeah, this is me just sizing up the doors and cutting them out. And once again, it matches the print perfectly, which was definitely ease of mind for me because I know I'm building it right and everything will look good in the end. It wasn't really a hard option to decide what kind of wood I would use. There would be nothing fancy for the stand. I just wanted something strong, so obviously I just went with generic pine. Now for my canopy, eventually you'll see I made out of a special kind of wood. It's actually really cheap, and I guess it's quote-unquote imported. I don't know, but it's called New Zealand pine. It's actually very rigid and it's very light. And seeing as this tank is very old, judging by the serial number and the wood trim, I would say it's from the early 90s. So I didn't want that much weight going on the tank if I didn't have to. So New Zealand pine was definitely the right choice. Also, you can see here I painted the interior of the stand white. Obviously, when there's light in there, it reflects off the white very well, and it's easier for me to see if I have to do maintenance or just generally work under the tank. And here is the canopy right now. This is basically just the outer shell. Didn't take too many pictures of me building the canopy. It was a pretty simple build, but just a generic frame. And then I had to split into 3 sections because I knew I was going to be putting 16-inch LED lights on there, and that's me actually drilling the holes out right now to get ready to cut them out. And here are the lights mounted. Eventually I will be upgrading to different lights because these actually do not have a built-in timer. They're just cheap LED Chinese black boxes, which is actually in the community, that's what they're called, Chinese black boxes. This is just me doing a test fit on the tank. The canopy door open and the canopy door closed. And this was me initially just doing a test fire of the lights, make sure everything looked good. which will look great. I got a quick little clip that I pulled from the archives of Facebook that I posted a long time ago. I don't know what my neighbors were thinking about at the time, because these lights, the video doesn't really do it justice. These lights are very, very bright. They're bright over a tank, but as soon as you take these lights off of a tank and just start shining them into the open air, they're very bright. So the next painstaking task was drilling my tank. And like I said before, this tank is very old. I knew that the bottom was tempered glass, so I wasn't able to drill it. I didn't know about the side panels or the back panel. There wasn't really a lot of information, so I decided to do some tests, as you'll see from this next video. Not only did I not know that this little 10-gallon tank was tempered glass, but I should have known even then that it's a 10-gallon tank. It's really thin. The drill wasn't going that fast, and yeah, I just didn't know what the hell I was doing, so this was actually kind of fun. Yeah, so eventually I just kind of sucked it up and I just went for it. I didn't take any video of the tank, and I should have, of me drilling it, but obviously everything worked out. There's my overflow and my return, and the plumbing. Everything is working great. Next design was a sump. Pretty standard sump, but this one I actually did make in SketchUp. I decided to use not acrylic and not glass for baffles, but PTFE, which is a very expensive, high-grade, food-grade plastic, which also has a lot of surface area on it. So I knew that the silicone would bind to it and the glass very well. And to this day, 3 months later, it's still holding strong. And there's a picture of me accidentally dropping in a tube of silicone. I had to have my son dig it out for me because his hands were small enough. But I think the sump turned out amazing. I just wish I didn't paint it, because now the paint chips are starting to come off, which isn't really a big deal because it is cured, but it's still kind of annoying. And this is a live video I took, which if some of my Facebook friends are watching this, you guys might remember this. I was nervous because I just got the basic plumbing hooked up, and I just wanted to basically do a test on the tank just to make sure there's no leaks. Excuse me, so you guys can see me actually just kind of rubbing the seals, which I did reseal the tank just to make sure that the seals were holding up and this tank wasn't leaking. But I did find out later that I would have to re-shim the tank, because this tank is in a basement and it pitches at about a 4-degree grade towards the drain in the middle of the basement. So I had to account for that and re-shim it. So you can kind of see that it's slightly off level here, and you can just tell by the angle of the water, even in that picture, but it all held up. And this is the plumbing put together. Actually one of the most recent photos. And then finally the control board, which this has gone through a lot of recent changes as well. This is a reef keeper light system. And this is basically the full setup as it sits right now. Got some media in there that I'm going to cycle for a quarantine tank. Skimmer working excellent. Battery backup for the power heads. And my ATO reservoir. And a little basket. And here's a quick video I took. Basically the water flows in through the red and blue pipes. That's a Herbie style overflow. The red is an emergency drain. And it goes into the tower and it comes out. And then it goes down into these filter socks here. And the filter socks basically, they filter out any uneaten food and fish waste and whatever. And eventually goes to the middle chamber where it becomes, where it hits the protein skimmer, and then that media down there, which I'm gonna cycle that for a quarantine system. It's also where I have both of my heaters, because I have a redundancy heater set up in this tank in case one goes out or gets stuck on, etc. And then from there it goes through a series of baffles through activated carbon, and it goes to the return pump center, which from there it either pumps to the tank or the water can be pumped to this manifold right here. I have an extra one open in case I want to add other equipment or just whatever, future proofing. And then the other line goes to my biomedia reactor, which eventually will help control nitrates in my tank. And so basically, instead of running a separate pump to power that media reactor. I'm powering off of one return pump. And then from there it goes back into the skimmer side to get refiltered or reprocessed through the skimmer. So the next thing I wanted for this system was to make sure that no matter if I did a water change, had to mix salt water for a water change, or needed RODI water for auto top off, that I never had to carry a single bucket again. So now I present my auto salt water mixing station slash auto water change slash RODI making station. So once you break it down, it's actually a really simple system. Water comes into my RODI unit at about 60 psi, and from there it's ran through a series of filters, carbon blocks, and membranes to essentially drop my TDS to 0. And this is a little inaccurate because my water actually isn't running right now. It's not being made because my RODI reservoir is actually full. But essentially you want 0 TDS, or total dissolvable solids. And from there the freshly made RODI water is sent to the top tank, where it's controlled by a float valve which controls the unit and tells it whether to go on or off, so I'm not making excess RODI water. From there I can control the water going into the salt water mixing tank, this valve here, turn it on or turn it off. Or if I need to fill up a container to fill up my RODI or my auto top off ATO reservoir, it goes to another valve here. I just turn on, gives me water, turn it back off, obviously to turn the water off. So with the top tank being used to hold RODI water, the bottom tank is used to mix and warm my salt water I'm going to need for my water change. From there it goes to the circulating pump, and this pump is the main power horse behind this system. As the water goes up, it has two places to go. To the left, we'll recirculate it back into the saltwater mixing tank to mix the salt water, or it can keep going up to eventually either go to my tank or the drain. The only reason I would need to send any water to the drain is either if I'm draining my tank or if I have to flush the saltwater mixing station with fresh salt water. But basically, the valve on the top sends it right to the tank, and the valve towards the left sends any water right to the drain. And this pipe eventually runs out to my bedroom, where there's a union where I can attach different attachments to either send water to the tank or send it from the tank to the drain. So to start this water change, I'm basically going to use one of two attachments I have. This first attachment is to take water from the tank and shoot it right down the drain. It's basically my old return pump. It's a Ryo 3100 Plus. So the first thing I want to do is turn off my return pump to my tank, and I want to turn off both power heads. Just inspect that there's no flow going throughout the tank. Basically ensures nothing runs dry. No pumps are running dry while I'm doing this water change. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off my cleverly disguised union there and plug in my pump attachment to take the water from the tank to the drain. I'm going to open up my valve, my clever little block to hold my pipe up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this valve. This ensures the water that's coming from the tank is going to go right down the drain. Water takes path of least resistance, so I don't have to worry about actually shooting up back over my saltwater tank. Now I'm going to open this valve right here. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep it closed. Got some mesh over the pump inlet so my fish doesn't get sucked up. And I can plug in the pump. As you can see, water is running right down the drain. A little sped up motion here. Got a preset distance where I like to see the water go to. It's about 20% water change right here. Shut off my valve. Now I'm going to plug in my other attachment to the union. This feeds water to the tank. Again, open up my valve. I'm going to unplug my heater and my wave maker that I have in my saltwater mixing tank. I'm going to close my drain valve this time. Don't want that good water going down the drain. I'm going to close my recirculating valve. I'm going to open up the valve that sends the water from the saltwater mixing tank over to the aquarium. That's a hard valve to turn. Plug in the pump and the water starts to go into the aquarium. Little time-lapse video here. I like to keep an eye on everything. Make sure there's no leaks in the plumbing system at all. I usually add water to the point where the sump starts to fill up again through the overflow. And I wait for the return chamber to get so high, and then I'll turn the pump off. Shut my valves again. A little bit of water left in the bottom, but we'll just flush that down the drain. It's not too much waste, a couple gallons. We'll turn our return pump back on. Turn our wave makers back on. Turn off our valve and disconnect our attachment. And then I'll cleverly disguise it. Besides a few basic husbandry things I have to do, change out filter socks, clean the glass. That's an easy water change, as simple as it gets. So I guess in conclusion, starting almost 3.5 years ago from this 40-gallon tank of mine to barely knowing how to do water changes, I've had a lot of successes, especially with this 75-gallon reef that I had. It's one of my best tanks. I really loved it, but I just didn't want to do reefs anymore. And I also had a lot of failures, like this trash heap of a 55-gallon tank. It was a mess. But all in all, I'm very happy where I am now. I'm happy with all the things that I've learned. Plumbing, woodworking, electrical skills. You know, I transferred all that knowledge into this 125-gallon tank, and this was a tank that I took my time building over the course of this last year, and I hope to have it running for many years to come. This hobby, it can be intimidating, it can be very expensive, but it's probably one of the most rewarding hobbies I think anyone could ever get into. So with that being said, I thank you all for watching. Have a good day.